Welcome back to Studio 10.
Well, what a treat and an honor it is for us to have these two very special guests with us here today as we celebrate our 60th birthday here at Fox 10.
That's right. You just can't talk about Fox 10 without mentioning these two gentlemen, John Edd Thompson and Bob Grip. Guys, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Bob, I know this is a really early morning for you. You're going to have a long day.
I didn't know there wasn't 8 o'clock in the morning.
I know. I don't believe that. You're probably up all day. You always have things going on, but we really do appreciate you both coming in.
Oh, glad to be here.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, well, as we talked about, Cherish, Michael White, we talked about how we got our starts here at Fox 10. When and how did you guys get your starts here at WALA?
Cool. All right. Well, I was a skinny, black-headed kid, and I came knocking on the door, and I said, "Can I do the weather?" They said, "Yeah, you can start this weekend." It was kind of like that.
It worked out just like
Something
that.
like that.
And I came here in 1984, and I'd been working in Virginia, and then came here and have just stayed here ever since and love it.
So kind of like me, Wisconsin's a lot different than Alabama. Virginia, a lot different than Alabama as well.
Yeah, but I love, I'd been here before and came back, and this is where I want to stay. So this is where I've been for 28 years, I think.
Yep. Wow. And see, I'm 30, so I remember growing up with both of you, and I know when John Edd Thompson left, we all had to say something on our tape, and I remember I couldn't go to bed on Christmas Eve until John Edd Thompson came on and told me that Santa was in the area.
That's right.
He was circling and was not going to land until everybody got to sleep.
That's right. I remember. And I remember Bob on there, too, and I remember them going back and forth. Right. So I couldn't go to bed, but that's when I knew, or I wasn't going to get any toys. Right. My mama let me know.
It was official at that point.
Exactly. Well, how have things changed? You guys have watched things change in this industry at this station through the years. Talk about the differences.
I think the technology has changed a lot. We used to go with cameras on the outside that would weigh 50 pounds or whatever, and now everything is on, you could shoot everything on an iPhone. So it's completely different.
And originally, the cameras that you put on your shoulders to go out, those things cost anywhere from $35,000 to $55,000 back then. Now they've gotten to where they're cheap enough that you don't fix them, you just buy another one.
It really is.
Well.
It's true.
How have things stayed the same, guys?
I think the storytelling has been such a key point of doing the news. Is like, it's really what it comes down to is basic good storytelling, letting people know what's going on. I don't really think that's changed.
Right. And speaking of storytelling, we do have some video that we wanted to show. Now, Bob, we're going to start with you, and John Edd, we have some clips of you as well. But Bob, take a look at this. This is a 1984 newscast. You were talking about how things were different, the technology. Well, looks quite a bit different here.
Oh yeah, this was at our downtown studio on Government Street, right across from where Government Plaza is right now. And we had this set for a number of years. And in fact, I think, ooh, wow, look at that.
Look at that young guy.
Whoa,
looking
yes.
I don't think I have that coat anymore, thank goodness. But you can see the graphics look different. They were more primitive. It was state of the art back then. But now when you look at what we have, it's so much better now. It's so much more refined. But those, that's old clip there. It's Lance Williams, that's right.
He went from here to, I think, St. Petersburg.
Right, and I think he's still in that area. I don't think he's on television anymore. But, whoa.
Well, Bob, Fox 10 has led you a lot of different and interesting places as well. You've been on some special assignments. One of those was in Washington, D.C. I think we have a clip of that, too, where you got to cover the Clinton and Gore campaign.
That's right. There's a live shot. Nancy Pierce is introducing me from atop a building that's very close to the Capitol, and I had just rushed back from the White House after meeting with Vice President Gore and President Clinton.
Awesome.
And it was just a tremendous experience. Here you see me asking a question to Al Gore, and in the Roosevelt Room, which is right off the Oval Office in the White House. It was just such a great experience to be right sort of in the center of power there.
You've had so many wonderful experiences. If you had to pinpoint one and say, this one was my favorite, so memorable, could you do it?
I think maybe the next clip is the one that is the most memorable, and that's where I had a chance to meet Pope John Paul II, thanks to Archbishop Oscar Lipscomb. You can see him there, and I had a chance to speak with him and shake hands with him, and then a few years later in 2001 I was able to bring my whole family back and meet the Pope once again.
And I've seen this clip prior to when we're showing it now, and one thing that I thought was really neat is you didn't speak to him in English.
Right, I spoke to him in Slavic.
What did you say to the Pope?
I gave him a traditional Slavic greeting. I said, Slava Isusu Christu. And everybody else around was saying, "Hi, Holy Father, how you doing?"
Right.
And he was going through, and that just stopped him because he's Polish. He was Polish. And he immediately started to respond back and forth. So that gave us a chance to get a little bit more video.
Sure.
So it worked.
That's one thing I've learned from you, Bob. Always make sure you do something that stands out. Do something that gets their attention.
Right. You've got to get them to stop and be on camera.
Absolutely. No matter what you're doing, get their attention.
Right. That's true.
Absolutely.
Well, Bob, there's been some fun times as well. We have this crazy picture of you holding a snake here. And then we also have a picture of the three of you. And by three, I mean you, John Edd, and Anissa Centers, who was a longtime anchor here. I loved her. She was just fantastic. But John Edd, we want to talk a little bit about some of your memories as well.
Yes.
One thing that Channel 10 did first in the market was color radar. We were the first to put color radar on the air in 1978, which was just prior to Frederick hitting in '79. So we were able to see the eye, which was just off of Dolphin Island at about 1:45 to midnight, and we were able to say, there it is, it's about to cross over the west end of Dolphin Island.
Wow.
Now, a lot of times we saw you here in the studio during the storms. Were you ever out in the middle of the storm?
In that particular storm, Kent Morton and I ended up at the transmitter. That was in case anything happened downtown, and something did happen.
Yeah, lost power.
Yeah, the power went out. Rain came through the roof onto the newsroom, and Kent and I were out there all night long talking. We would talk for 15 or 20 minutes and show a 20-minute film, and then talk for 15 or 20 minutes. And all night long we kept hearing thump, thump, thump. And we weren't quite sure what that was. And we found out the next morning it was pine trees hitting the ground all around the transmitter.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So you've had some really interesting experiences, and obviously the meteorology department has changed through the years drastically. We've seen in the graphics and the video that we've looked at. How has that been for you?
Well, when I first started, I guess I was a weatherman.
Look at this handsome guy on the screen
Oh,
here.
yeah.
There he is.
See the map behind you there? Those are pieces of adhesive tape for fronts.
Really?
Yeah, we would peel them off each day, clean it up, and then put the adhesive tape back on with the little points for the cold fronts, the little humps for the warm fronts, and you can see clouds stuck on there too. And that was one way of doing it. And you saw the other large board earlier with Danny Trainer. That was magnetic, you know.
Oh my goodness.
Tape and magnets, a little bit different than what we have nowadays in the technology world. Well, guys, this has been so great to have you in here. Any last things you guys want to say here before we move on?
I'm just glad to be here.
Well, you know, we're glad you're here too. No doubt about that.
Yeah, I'm glad I had a chance to work with John Edd.
Yeah.
So many wonderful people.
Yeah.
I'm glad John Edd keeps coming back to visit us.
Every 3 weeks.
Every chance you get.
Yeah.
We want you to keep doing that.
Okay.
Well, and guys, maybe you can stick around and help us celebrate with some of that cakes and cupcakes over there with Judy. That's what we got coming up next. It looks so good in the kitchen.